Hello, hello, and welcome back to the studio. Today we are going to be working in colored pencil, and we're going to be doing a little demo, not an entire sketch, but a little demo about how you might start a piece in colored pencil. It forces you to really analyze color and color relationships in an object that you would think is just white. So basically forcing your eye into acknowledging, okay, this is not a colorless thing. Even if an object is white, it's going to receive ambient color and light from the things around it, depending on the surface texture and sheen and all sorts of other factors. And you're going to have to interpret both light and shadow on and around the object. And it just is really interesting because every person is going to come up with their own creative solutions to this issue, especially because we're not just mixing paint. We're using a set of colored pencils, and so there's only so much mixing that you can do on the paper. We're going to work in light layers and all that, but it's not quite like mixing paint where you can get exactly the color you want. We need to focus on maintaining values, and the colors will be what they're going to be. You're going to approximate, you're going to get as close as you can, and you're going to use that reference as inspiration and as a way to hone your observational skills and make artistic decisions, but you're not married to it, and you must take artistic license. This is what this assignment is forcing you to do, and it's really fun. It's very meditative. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Supplies for this. I am using a gray Canson Mi-Teintes. It's Mi-Teintes in steel gray. It's a pastel paper, but it works really well for colored pencils. And you can do this on sketchbook paper. You do not need toned paper. It's the tooth that I'm after for this that I think will be really great. And I am using Prismacolor Premier Pro colored pencils. Premier Pro. Oh, Jessie, I'm thinking about editing right now. I'm using Prismacolor Premier colored pencils, and I've got the 48 set. I'm using a Prismacolor sharpener that's specifically for colored pencils. Got a little bit of washi tape. I've got some erasers. This is great for detail, and you will notice that even though we're working in colored pencil, if we work light enough, it is kind of erasable. So that's awesome. I'm going to work smaller, and normally I would work up here, but I'm going to just try to move it towards me a little bit because just because of the way the setup is that I'm using in my studio, I'm having a hard time seeing over here because of a glare. So I'm just going to start my sketch, and if you're having trouble with ellipses when you're doing drawings of still life, I have a separate tutorial all about the perspective of ellipses and how to help you with that. This top one's a little tilted and it's a little lower, so I'm going to change what I have going here. I'm probably going to regret using this dark brown, but I really couldn't see otherwise. I could be using white to sketch. That might be smarter. But I think white is really, I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. Doesn't matter what color you use, but yeah, I don't think I would see enough of this if I used it the white. I'd have to be laying it down too heavy. So it's better to use a darker color and lay it down lighter in my experience. Now, I'm going to probably be laying things down a little heavier than you would because I just want you to be able to see it. So ignore the pressure that I'm using and stay true to what you need, the pressure you need in order to keep this light. We want to stay lighter longer. That's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is keep your drawing as light as you can, light as possible. And as you get more confident and as you figure out exactly your lines and the shading, it's okay to then increase your pressure. But to start, we are going to stay light. I really enjoy these ridges on this bowl. It's okay to get a little darker here because we are in shadow. This side on the left is so light that I'm probably not even gonna emphasize it much. So I've got enough of a sketch to go with. I think, although I wanted you to see my colored pencil selection, I'm gonna zoom in here for you. There you go, so that you can just get a bit of a closer view of the actual shading that we're going to be doing. So I would recommend not like just leaving your highlights for later and working on building up some of the shadow areas. Now that said, I want you to keep in mind general to specific, just make it a chant that you say. So I'm just using a soft brown here right now, like a neutral. You don't have to sweat the color choices. You just need to get it near the right values. Now already I am working in a shadowed area, but already I feel the need to bring in a bit of a lighter value. This is the ginger root that I was talking about. I don't want to try to achieve, like, I know this won't be a full tutorial. I just want to give you a plan of attack. So I'm going to try not to focus everywhere, even though I just said general to specific. I want you to see how I build up one area. So getting a couple ideas ready. And it's okay to test things out. You can't know what they're gonna look like until you kind of swatch them. So on the side, I am just doing a little scribble to kind of see what it looks like on this page. I still think that this brown is really a good choice for the shadows on the ice cream. And I might need to already make some hard choices about, there's not really going to be a bright enough pink for the sprinkles, some of the sprinkles. But I'm willing to just block in a couple of them now. I'm sketching them in with the actual color they are, so it won't give me as much grief later. This is like not the right yellow, but it's okay. Hard for some of this to show up at all. And some colored pencils, like, you really want to work with your colored pencils sharp, but some just, the lead might be broken and they're going to give you trouble. They're not going to sharpen the way you want them to. It's frustrating, and we deal. Yeah, I try to keep them as sharp as I can. And then some of them I just know by now which ones are the ones that aren't going to give me a point. They're just going to keep breaking the more I sharpen them. So with an assignment like this, having a couple things in bright color are going to be really fun. Tiny little speck of color here and there. This little sprinkle is supposed to be way up here, but we do what we can, we do what we can. There's also a couple of white sprinkles, which is going to be really interesting because the ice cream is quote unquote white. I'm going to try to erase a bit of the brown on this left side of the ice cream scoop because this is just so light. I think I'll be able to put that in with white. And then this side is all in shadow. So think about the whole thing. Don't like get too hyper focused on every tiny little individual area. Think about form. This is a sphere and it has a light source coming from the left. And this part is in shadow or in, you know, it's shaded. So we're going to work with some grays and beiges. Now we don't have gray, so then we get to get creative. I'm going to pull out a nice light value purple I have. And I think that I can add this over on this side, really light, really light. I don't really want this to look purple. And if you add in yellow to purple, you're going to get more of a neutral because they're opposite on the color wheel. So you're kind of calming it down. Now it just looks beige. I do have a light peach, which could work, I think, best for parts of the bowl. They look kind of peachy to me. It is so tempting for me to work a little darker so that you can see, but I risk overloading the paper too quickly and not being able to keep working on top of it. So I'm trying to stay super light despite how it might be a bit difficult for you to see. And I'm going to push my highlights a little, not all the way, but a little. It's been a while since I've worked on this paper, so I'm finding it a bit challenging. It almost feels like I'm not able to lay this down. I know I'm using the right side. And there's like a little dent or whatever, fold in the ice cream, and so it's got a little highlight coming out. So I'm still looking for just like ridges, and I'm thinking of it almost like a landscape. Where are the highlights? Where are the shadows? And I think this ginger root is going to be a great color for the kind of middle ground. If I need to push it darker and I don't want it to be this yellow, we've got the purple. This one is called Lilac. Some people might look at this reference, and honestly it's going to depend on your screen, right? Your display. If your screen is, if you're like drawing this, your reference is on a screen, like I am, I'm using my computer, it's going to look different depending on, like every single display will look different. So you might see green where I see pinks and purples. We can't really control that unless we were to print it out. And again, if we printed it out, it would depend on the printer. So I had a student ask, can we use black or do we have to avoid it? And they asked that because I often say don't, like for my painters, don't even use black, don't buy black. It has its own whole issue with it. It's going to lean blue or red. When you mix it with other things, it changes. It's just different set of problems when you start incorporating black. But That said, we only have 48 colored pencils here, and this is going to be a lovely neutral deep shadow, so I am not going to tell you to avoid it entirely. So you can pull out the browns, peaches, things like that, mix it in. Kind of see, I do see warmth. Thinking of using orange, but maybe brown would be better. I see warmth on the ice cream right in here. It's kind of like reflecting off of the cup that it's in. I like this brown light umber because it isn't too warm, cool, or dark. It's just kind of like in the middle. Kind of the closest to gray I can think to get. So I've got some whites or some lighter areas blocked in, and I'm also blocking in dark areas, and I'm trying not to go too far with any of them. This is a little far, it's already kind of building up a waxiness. Notice the tiny little sliver of black I put in there. And I've got underneath this green sprinkle, I've got some more shadow. When I'm looking at the sort of wrinkles in the ice cream over here, I'm also thinking about caves and where the light is hitting. I've started with the darkest dark and I'm kind of working my way out. We're all going to come up with our own solutions for this artistic scenario, this problem. And whether we're successful or not doesn't impact the worth of the activity and how we're learning from it. That was interesting. I was able to pull some light in over that really easily. I'll get the edge of this cup here, has a little highlight on it that curves to about here, and then another one there, right next to the shadow curving around. These kind of bright pops are really satisfying. I try to save them till a bit later, but they really help things come together. Now, let's say I can only push this light so light. I'm trying, I'm changing direction. You may have noticed I'm not like hatching and cross hatching. I've been using sort of small circular motions for most of my shading so far. And I might kind of reach an impasse where I'm like, I don't think I can actually put a lot more down right here, but the value isn't not good enough. The value contrast between this white and the background is not good enough. So what do? You have some options. You can interpret your picture however you want. I'm seeing, or I'm going to force myself to see, that I'm going to make the background a little darker. I could use just black, you know, but I'm trying to challenge you to not just use black and white all the time for your values. And so I'm going to use blues in the background and keep the ice cream and subject matter more warm. And what that will do is it'll push the background back a little bit. So I could just use black here, but I'm deciding to interpret the background as more blue than the foreground. Is it true? Not necessarily. In the photo reference, you might see the background as being quite warm, maybe a bit of pink and purple, but, and look how far back I'm holding my pencil, just want you to take note. This assignment isn't really about everything around the subject matter. We chose white food or white subject matter, and I'm not too concerned about really what's going on in the background. It's a great time to practice. You can practice your really light sort of gradient or ombre effect, like fading something out. Let's see what happens when that was a very, very light indigo, and you would think, oh my goodness, if you're going really light, why would you choose such a dark blue? Well, the other blues were they were going to be really vibrant, and I need something just chill, more neutral. Now I'm noticing immediately as soon as I put the ginger root on top, it's turning green. I don't think I love that, so we're going to look for a darker orange and just experiment. You know that, we know that adding orange to blue will neutralize it because they're opposite on the color wheel, but keep in mind that different browns can lean certain ways. So some of your browns might be yellow-ish, some of your browns might be orangish. So I immediately put back my orange. That happens all the time. Colored pencils. I put back the orange colored pencil and immediately picked up this brown, because this brown is orangey. It's already leaning that way. Oh my goodness, guys. So this pencil is breaking off, which is really, really aggravating. But I'm going in a different direction than the blue. I'm just kind of purposely making it more textured, a very light, sketchy, cover more ground. But notice how I'm pushing the value of the background darker, and suddenly it appears as though this ice cream is really popping, even though I only got it so light. I couldn't really get it to be as white as I wanted. Obviously, you need to get rid of that gray behind here in order to get the lightest value. You have to really scrub the white on here, and I'm feeling really confident in this area anyway. I don't think I'm going to have to like tweak it color-wise, so I'm just pushing it right now. Push, push, push. We don't want to burnish too soon. Burnishing is getting that waxy effect, and you don't really want to do that right off the bat at all. And also, there's different ways to burnish. You want to build up slow layers, and it's okay if, you know, by the end you're getting to this point, but you don't want to be burnishing on like your second layer or your first layer. That would be way too soon. And the difference is it'll be a lot less uniform. You know, you might see your pencil marks more and things like that. Now, our goal isn't to entirely eliminate the pencil marks. This is a drawing, but when we're trying to achieve some higher realism or just a nice, you know, controlled appearance, then doing that won't really help you. Notice how I kind of left some of these areas with a little less white on them. I don't even have to shade them. The gray of the paper is going to do that for me. So that is really rewarding, is just avoiding certain areas where there are shadow and just letting the paper be that shadow. Then I don't have to fuss with what color can I do to make this slightly darker white. We don't have a gray in our sets. We have a silver. I wouldn't recommend using it because it's going to have a bit of a different sheen. It is metallic. And, you know, for certain things that could be really cool, but I think using it in place of a gray would be maybe a bit weird. I'm not sure how successful that would be. Kind of cutting around these little sprinkles here. I'm looking for reflective light, like does the little green sprinkle make some of the ice cream around it look green? Does the surface your object is sitting on show up? Like, does that color show up on your subject matter at all? Let me zoom in to show you how this is going. So this is what I mean by these areas. This is what I mean by letting the paper do some of that shading for you. I added some of the purple and yellow in here to shade that, but I could rely on the gray of the paper a bit more. Another really good reason for you to work on the gray paper if you don't have a gray in your colored pencil set. Now, some people have a gray, and they even have a smaller set. They don't have the 48, and they still were given a gray. It's a very interesting choice not to give people a gray in this set. This is a large set, but I guess they thought, you know what, they can use black and white. And we can. A little extra work. So over on this side, let's keep talking about values. Over on this side, the ice cream is darker than the background. So this is one of those crazy things where like it's showing up darker here, and then on the side it's not. So we actually are going to add, that was a bit too dark too soon. Let me do as I say, not as I do. I'm impatient when I'm recording. I want to make a nice short sweet video for you, so maybe I'm rushing this process just a tiny bit. Somewhere up here, you're going to transition from the lighter to the darker. So we're doing a lot of ombre, or like a lot of blending from one color into the next, from one value into the next, as seamlessly as possible. I'm bringing some warmth into the left here. I see it as more of an orange. Maybe we should bring in the peach. I had some purple in there just to darken it, but remember, focus on the value more than the color, and you will have a nice drawing at the end. And you can't solve these color scenarios perfectly each time. It's going to depend on what color paper you're using, the image you chose, the set, the colored pencil set you have. It's remarkable. Like, somebody with a set of 12 might have more success than me if they were given a gray. Like, you just don't know what everyone's tools are. Also, Prismacolor Premier colored pencils are more waxy than other types. Like, not all colored pencils are created the same. They use different, they're just different. They're just different. Some are less waxy and must be built up a little differently. These particular ones, the set that I have, are meant to be kind of softer, and they cover a lot of area. They're really good for quick coverage. I got really blue. Yikes. It's the blue on the white as opposed to the blue on the gray. But yeah, these are known for being able to cover area better, like more area. And then also they work really well with the new pastel set that I have. You can use the pastels and the colored pencils interchangeably, which is kind of lovely. Don't know how well I did that blending. I think I was rushing a little bit. Would not highly recommend that, but you can see that we've got a good drawing started here. And a lot of values being placed in such clear lighting source. And I hope this gives you a bit of a plan of attack. You see me struggle through these choices. You see me having to, have light in one area and blend it to be darker in the other, just so that the background can help that subject matter pop. Would I say that I've nailed these colors and this is exactly what I'm seeing in the reference? No. It's the best approximation I can do today with the colors on hand and the choices I made. Everything's relative to each other. So if I didn't choose to use purples and yellows over here, let's just say I went into using oranges, it might change the color choices for the rest of the whole drawing because I'm trying to work in relation to what I started, the choices I made. So I really actually didn't expect to like this spot so much with the warm interior glow of that cup, but that is really nice. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a sense of how to start this assignment. And if it is something that interests you, let me know in the comments and I can do more complete tutorials instead of just like a little mini demo of how I would attack a project like this. Thank you for joining me for another little sketchy tutorial and mini lesson demo thingy. And I hope you really learned something from that. I would be very interested to see if you followed along or you watched this lesson and then attempted the little exercise yourself. If you want to share it with me on social media, just tag me at Doddington Creates. And you can also use the hashtag Doddington Sketch Team. Anyway, I will see you again really soon for another video here in the studio.